In a quiet convent city in France, something happened that defied time itself. When the grave of Saint Bernadette Soubirous was opened in 1881, witnesses expected decay, but instead saw a body preserved with startling calm, as if death had gently paused. Her face, once marked by illness and poverty, appeared serene. Her hands, long folded in prayer during life, showed no sign of corruption. Doctors, clergy, and skeptics stood silent, realizing they were witnessing something beyond medical explanation or human expectation. This was not a legend whispered centuries later, but a documented moment recorded by church officials and medical professionals. Saint Bernadette's body challenged modern assumptions, asking an unsettling question: can holiness leave a physical trace behind? For believers, the scene stirred awe rather than fear. The stillness of her preserved form spoke quietly, suggesting that her life of humility, obedience, and suffering had not ended in silence, but continued to testify without words. Yet Saint Bernadette Soubirous never sought recognition. She did not chase miracles, fame, or authority. Born in 1844, she lived quietly, weak in health, unnoticed by society, carrying a faith that asked nothing but to remain faithful. When her body was examined again decades later, the same astonishment returned. Time had passed, yet her features endured. For many, this repeated confirmation deepened conviction that God sometimes speaks not through thunder, but through quiet preservation. The Church approached these findings cautiously, neither rushing to spectacle nor dismissing the evidence. Investigations were conducted with restraint. What emerged was not sensationalism, but a sober acknowledgement that something extraordinary had occurred. For those who later knelt before her glass shrine in Nevers, France, the experience felt intimate. They did not see a relic of the past, but a silent witness reminding them that purity, obedience, and trust can echo beyond death. Saint Bernadette's incorrupt body does not demand belief through fear. Instead, it invites reflection. It gently asks whether a life surrendered fully to God might be touched by eternity in ways the world cannot explain. As we begin this journey, remember that this story is not about death, but about faith made visible. Before we speak of visions, trials, or miracles, we stand at a grave that quietly refused to obey decay. Saint Bernadette Soubirous was born in 1844 in Lourdes, France, into a family marked by poverty and illness. From childhood, asthma weakened her body, limited her work, and quietly prepared her for a life shaped more by endurance than by strength. She could not read or write fluently, nor did she receive formal religious education. Yet Saint Bernadette possessed a simple, unshakable faith, formed through daily hardship, prayer, and trust rather than theology, status, or human approval. In 1858, while still a young girl, her life changed forever through the apparitions at Lourdes. Saint Bernadette never claimed authority or privilege, repeating faithfully what she had seen, even as pressure and suspicion surrounded her. Civil authorities interrogated her, doctors examined her, and crowds questioned her sincerity. Despite this, Saint Bernadette remained consistent, calm, and humble, refusing embellishment or dramatization, a posture that slowly earned cautious respect. The Church, careful not to rush judgment, observed her behavior over time. Investigations focused less on spectacle and more on character. What stood out was her obedience, lack of ambition, and willingness to disappear once her role was finished. Eventually, Saint Bernadette withdrew from public attention and entered religious life in Nevers. There, she embraced obscurity, service, and suffering, accepting chronic illness as part of her vocation rather than a burden to be resisted. She died in 1879 at only 35 years old, quietly and without acclaim. Those who lived beside her remembered no triumphal figure, but a gentle woman marked by patience, silence, and unwavering trust in God's will. When her body was exhumed in 1881, church officials followed strict procedures. The discovery of preservation was recorded carefully, without theatrical claims. Each step reflected discernment, ensuring that reverence never replaced responsibility. Further examinations in later years confirmed what had first been observed. For the Church, Saint Bernadette's incorrupt body did not stand alone, but aligned with a life already marked by humility, obedience, and hidden fidelity. Thus, the Church recognized not a spectacle, but a testimony. Saint Bernadette Soubirous became a quiet reminder that holiness is often revealed slowly, through consistency, suffering, and a life that never seeks its own glory. Standing before the preserved body of Saint Bernadette Soubirous, many feel an unexpected stillness. It is not fear that fills the heart, but a quiet reverence, as if time itself has stepped aside to allow faith to speak softly. Her incorrupt body does not shout for attention. It rests silently, reminding believers that God often works without noise, without spectacle, shaping souls through patience, surrender, and lives offered quietly in trust and obedience. Saint Bernadette's life challenges modern instincts. She did not seek validation, influence, or control. Her strength came from humility, her courage from obedience, and her peace from accepting suffering without resentment or complaint. For older hearts shaped by decades of joy and loss, her witness speaks deeply. It affirms that faith lived faithfully, even in obscurity, is never wasted, and that God remembers what the world easily overlooks. In Never, her resting place has become a space of prayer rather than curiosity. Visitors lower their voices, not because they are instructed to, but because something sacred invites restraint, reflection, and inward listening. Saint Bernadette Soubirous continues to teach without speaking. Her preserved form echoes a gospel truth. Those who lose their lives for God's sake often find them held securely beyond the reach of decay or forgetting. This story is not meant to pressure belief, but to invite trust. It asks whether a life lived in surrender might leave marks not only on memory, but on history itself, quietly resisting the limits of death. As you reflect on Saint Bernadette's journey, consider your own hidden sacrifices. The prayers no one sees, the endurance no one applauds. The faith carried quietly through ordinary days may matter more than imagined. The Church's careful recognition of her incorrupt body ultimately points beyond the physical. It directs hearts toward holiness as a lifelong response, not a momentary event, formed slowly through faithfulness and grace. If this story touched your heart, let it become a prayer. May the quiet witness of Saint Bernadette Soubirous lead you to whisper gratitude, renew trust, and perhaps with sincere conviction, write a simple Amen.